I'm Rick Dancer, and tonight on this episode, we are gonna blow your brains out. It's gonna be crazy. You're gonna blow your mind because I have a friend, and all of a sudden, my wife started going, "Have you seen what Albert Roy is doing?" And I'm like, "No." But with Albert, you can't ever know for sure what he's doing. But he went into Pakistan. I'm going to show you a little bit of video.
Okay. So yes.
And for the last several years, he's been buying people, and he's going to explain this to you, how this works. But these are people in Pakistan who are slaves because of medical bills, because of things that have gone wrong. They're then owned by people. And Albert goes in and buys these people's freedom for them. And he just got back from a trip. We have a video we're going to show you. First, I want to get my sponsors in here because we cannot do what we do without our sponsors. Cristiano Family Dentistry, where everyone is welcome. Dr. Michael Bratland does dentures. They do all your regular teeth care. Excellent at doing crowns. I know some of you young people are thinking you'll never need a crown. Guess what? I thought the same thing. And now I have a king tooth. It'll happen. But Dr. Bratland's one of our big supporters. Also joining us tonight as a sponsor, Montana Oral Surgery and Dental Implant Center right here in Helena, Montana. Awesome people, care about the community, and do some pretty amazing stuff. My dad was a guy who had dentures, and they put in these implants that are just like real teeth. And it's absolutely amazing how they work, and they're very good people, and it's a great organization that you can go through. Also, we are sponsored by, I think this is Fairway Independent Mortgage Company right here in Helena, Montana. Also can help you in Oregon and in Washington, excuse me. Greg Hinkle, he's a local guy. He's also from Oregon and Washington. We met here, and he became a sponsor because he likes what we do. And our other sponsor, to protect, I mean, right now, I would guess all that smoke going into your system is not good. That is Rains Heating and Air Conditioning. We're going to hear a little bit more from them today. They're a new sponsor. They're going to love what you're doing, Albert, because they are like-minded to you. And they're a new sponsor. They heard what we do, and they were really excited to come on. So let's get right to the show. Albert Roy joins us now live from Springfield, Oregon. So how did you I don't even know where to start with you because you're so crazy. But how did this all begin? So the problem is people in Pakistan get into debt, and then they're owned. They're basically slaves to the people that they're indebted to.
Correct. Yeah. So the very beginning of the story is it was the middle of COVID. I'm sitting around the house in the evening, bored to death. And this new thought enters my head. What is this like for someone in the third world? And I had a friend on Facebook. They had connected with me a couple years back, said that he was a pastor in Pakistan. But he had never commented, never liked anything. Usually what happens is people join my page, and then the next day they say they want money. And then I go delete.
Yeah,
because I'm interested in relationship. Relationship is what's going to solve the problem. And so I instigated a conversation with this guy. And I said, what's it like over there? What are you guys going through on the ground? And it started with him talking about one of his home churches. He has a whole series of home churches, and they had no food. And I said, well, what would it take to feed this church for a month? And it was like $200. I mean, it was nothing,
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm in. I can live without $200 this month, And so I sent him the money. He sent me back pictures of every person getting food. I didn't ask for it, but he was very transparent, and he wanted me to know that the money was going. It wasn't going to a Nigerian prince, right? It was going to what it was supposed to be.
To real people.
Yeah. And yeah, it was effecting change on the ground immediately. Right. So it opened a conversation for us, and you're big on conversations, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you've taught me a lot about that over the years. And it opens up that all of the people in his church, they're slaves. And I'm like, how can that be? I don't understand.
Isn't that it's weird for especially in American culture, because we think that is something that's solved,
Right.
where
Yeah,
it's
we
not.
solved it. We've moved past it. Let's talk about something else.
Right.
Yep. So he still starts delving into this, and I'm like, well, how much would it cost to pull someone out? And he has a very large church. He's probably got about 1,000 people in home churches, right?
You're kidding.
In Pakistan, yeah. All legal, above board, the whole thing. And the more we talk, the more I just like this guy and what he's doing, because he's kind of like, if you'll go with the analogy, a Mother Teresa of his country.
Right.
He's affecting a group of people that have no hope.
Wow.
That's the group of people he wants to serve. And that just grabbed my heart. And so then I said, well, what do these slaves do? And he says they work in brickyards. They make bricks all day long. And
this is men, women, and children.
Yeah. So let's say, the dad breaks his leg and he has to go to the hospital. He gets it fixed, costs, however many rupees. And so he goes into debt to the brick owner. And he says, I'll pay off my debt making bricks for you. What he doesn't realize is that he's committing the rest of his life to this and his family's life. They're going to suck him in and he's never going to get out of this. Okay.
Because to find that kind of money to pay them back is astronomical for them. How much do they make normally? Like really, realistically?
It's not very much.
Yeah.
But beyond that, the brickyard owners are so evil. So they want you to make 1,000 bricks a day. Okay. If you don't reach your quota, they're going to withhold food or water or electricity or whatever it takes to try to, beat you into submission.
Wow. That's nasty.
It is. It's evil. So we call things what they are. The truth is it's evil. Okay. And it's just an unrighteous way of doing life. Okay. So, this reminded me of a story in scripture about God's people making bricks all day long. And I was just
in a place called Egypt, and they were also slaves.
Exactly. And it just pulled on my heartstrings. And I said, I've got to do something about this.
So you've never been over there before, though?
No, I've been into Africa multiple times. I have an orphanage in Africa that I run, but never over into Asia.
So I'm going to show this video while we're talking for people a little bit. How did this trip come about?
It was 4 years in the making. I've been trying to get there for 4 years. This is one of the pastors there that I'm hugging. This is another slave that we've bought out in the past. I was a bit of a rock star in their country because I was white. I had a whole entourage of people. And everywhere you go, they want to greet you and they give you like Hawaiian leis, their roses, and then they throw rose petals at you. So this is their way of honoring you. Or they give you, stacks of flowers. So this is the location we're at here is at the home of the first man that we bought out. We call him the Buffalo Man. We bought him and we gave him a micro loan for a buffalo.
So because by doing that, you're giving him a business. Is that right?
Correct. We turn every one of these people into immediate entrepreneurs with a micro loan that they do not pay back. We brought food with us everywhere we went. We fed everybody. So everybody in that room right there that you're looking at are slaves that we've bought out. Their families, their whole family we've bought out.
So how many, up until you went, how many people have you purchased freedom for?
I think we were around 55 that we've purchased out so far.
Wow. So what have you learned about the world I saw one of your posts and you were talking about, and we have great reason to be concerned about our freedom in America today. But what have you learned about freedom?
Not a lot of people really know what it is. Even here in the States, we think we have freedom, but we don't. Whereas if you have debt in your life, you are not free. You are a slave.
Tell people why.
We just do it differently. So the number one word in scripture connected to debt is sin. Sin is just a synonym for debt. Okay. You owe a debt that you can't pay. So, so we do debt differently here in the United States. We talk about managing debt and things like that. These people just had, debt that they couldn't pay, and there's no way to, declare bankruptcy. So they then give over their lives to the owner, the slave owner. And they've lost all freedom.
So in America, who's the slave owner?
Well, it could be the Visa card company. It could be your car company. It could be the government. We owe debt. It could be your student loans. We owe debt to, it could be your mortgage company. We work, off to work we go to pay our bills, right?
And what is that? How does that stop our freedom in America?
Well, you can't do the things that you might want to do. So, for example, I live debt-free. Because I'm debt-free, I went to Pakistan.
Because you wanted, it's not something you had to plan. You have the money because you don't have any debt.
I live under my means, and the extra goes to buying out slaves or taking care of an orphanage.
So how thankful are these people when you're there?
Well, they threw flowers at me. I felt like MacArthur walking into the Philippines to set them free. It was pretty amazing. I've never had people throw flowers at me before, maybe other than a cactus once. So the amount of honor that was given me is unexplainable. It's not something I'm used to receiving or doing. They live in an honor shame society. So they work really hard at being proactive at giving honor. We live in a guilt-based society. We don't change.
Okay, explain the difference for people, because I don't think people really understand that. Because now shame in America is a really bad thing.
Well, but
to American culture, nobody should be shamed.
Correct. So we've gotten rid of it, right? And the only way someone changes then is if we somehow force them to change, right? So in an honor society, you're trying to do the right thing for the honor of your family name.
And shame is a horrible thing for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why is that good, Albert, do you think?
Why is it good to have an honor society?
Uh-huh.
Well, we used to kind of have one. I think we've tried fighting for it. We've just given up on it now because we've become such a Western civilized mindset. And, like I was in the Boy Scouts. We talked about honor when I was in the Boy Scouts. I remember it was in part of the creed. But, maybe in the military today, they talk about honor, as part of the military code, things like that. But in general, I don't think that we really spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Okay, I want to get more into that. First, I want to bring one of our clients on. He's new, Bradley Rains, Rains Heating and Air Conditioning out of Cresswell. And part of the reason they're doing this is because, yes, they want to get their name out, but they also are strong believers. They're strong believers in what we do, and they will love this conversation. But I was recently asking him about all the smoke in Oregon from the fires. And what do you do with your heating system? And this is our conversation. To protect, right now, I would guess all that smoke going into your system is not good.
It is not good, Rick. You should be checking your filters regularly. You should be washing them if they're washable filters. There's all kinds of new technology out to help with smoke. I personally put a iWave in my house, and I put an air scrubber in my house. It has made an amazing difference on the indoor air quality.
So an air scrubber, and what was the other thing?
An iWave. Both of them get installed into the cabinet of the air exchange equipment, and it helps to cut down the smoke by pumping in positive ions into the system.
Now, do you guys do that?
We do. We offer that. We install those. Right now, we're running a special on the air scrubber for $9.99 install. Well, I want to let people know that there's people out there that still believe in God and that serve Him, and that's really what we're out there to do, is go out there, help people out, fix their air conditioning, and spread the good news of Jesus.
Well, there's a good reason to be in business, huh?
Nice.
So, Albert, talk to me more. So, this is Albert Roy, you guys, for those of you who just turned in, and he he just got back from a trip to Pakistan, where he buys the freedom of slaves, of people who have been put into slavery because of medical bills or other kinds of trauma and tragedy in their life that makes them in debt to people. So COVID did something good.
We found the silver lining. Yes.
What do you see differently about God after being over there with the people of Pakistan?
So we had several pretty amazing events happen. I went over cash in hand. One of my goals was actually to witness the actual transaction being made and see how it takes place and learn kind of all the various parts of it, because that's been behind the scenes for me up to this point. So I wanted to experience that firsthand. So the first one I got to watch, and everything went well, learned what to do, what to say, and all those things, what not to say. And then the second time I actually, and that was the video you were showing, I actually got to buy the person out. And so that was all cool, absolutely great. But a friend saw my Facebook post, someone I haven't seen for a few years, and they said, "Hey, I've got all this money set aside for some charity work, and I want to wire it to you. I've been looking for a charity to help out, something, and this really grabbed my heart." So she wired me $10,000.
What?
It's totally epic. And
oh my gosh, Albert, that's so cool.
So the brickyard, that the picture that you were showing there, where I bought out that slave, there were 10 other families on that brickyard. Okay. So we bought the whole brickyard out and shut the guy down.
No way.
Totally awesome. Totally awesome. So that was kind of, so again, it's like, so, yes, I know God answers prayer, all these things, but when you're kind of like doing it real time, it's kind of like, Acts chapter 2 type stuff. It's like, wow, this is really amazing. I needed the funds. God provided the funds in one day, on a level I've never experienced in my life. So then we went to another place, and I roll into the brickyard where we have a 15-seater van with the whole crew in there. We've got armed guards everywhere I go. They're protecting us. We were safe,
But you were behind Taliban lines.
We had the opportunity to drive through some Taliban-controlled territory, and I was actually happy that they didn't tell me that till we were halfway through.
Yeah, because you get a little pucker.
Yeah, there you go. I'm what? I didn't think that was in the contract, but oh well. So so I'm driving onto the property. I see this rice field. I happen to take a picture of it, And all of a sudden we come around this massive store of bricks, and there's this tent set up in the middle of nowhere, just blowing, waving in the wind. And there's some rugs down on the dirt, and there's about 60 people sitting down on these rugs. And I'm waiting for Abraham and Sarah to walk out. I mean, it's just very kind of biblical scene, right? And we sit down. They have this like sofa sitting there, and we sit down, and the brickyard owner has given us permission to do this, to bring a worship team and do service with them. Okay. So they're all singing. I have no clue what they're singing, the psalm or something like that. It's in their language. And my friend leans over and he says, so you're going to talk at the end of this. And I'm like, what the Gehenna am I supposed to say? I have no clue what to say to these people. I'm here to buy people. I'm not trying to give sermons. I don't have 6 points that start with the letter P. I don't have trite sayings to make people feel happy or anything.
But you did have a worship tape or something, right?
I had nothing. Yeah, none of my sermons, and how do you?
Did you leave them with a book?
Yeah, $49.95. Buy my CD.
No, just a Bible, right? That's all. The only book they needed was the Bible.
That's all I had. And I'm thinking, like, what do I say to these people in this situation? How do I encourage them even?
Right.
Like this isn't my life. I mean, I could walk down Main Street, Springfield, and encourage someone and say, hey, hang in there, do this. I'll take you down to the mission or, whatever. Right.
Right.
I am the mission in this scenario. Right.
Right.
And so,
and you don't want to come across like an American know-it-all. Like, here, I come from America. You live in a nice place, and you're going to tell them how to live their life. It really should. I have a feeling the sermon was actually them showing you how to better live your life.
Yeah, and that did happen. This is actually one of the reasons I wanted to go there. I actually see them as the heroes of the faith. I'm not the hero of the faith. I'm just an employer that has a bunch of money and I can go spend it to help people. Their level of faith, they're sitting out in the middle of a desert as a slave, clapping their hands to worship music. That takes guts. That's not my world, though.
So what did you say to them?
Scripture tells us that, I'll bring you before kings and potentates, and you don't have to worry about what you're going to say. I'll provide the words. And so I stood up and I said, if you guys recall, there's a story in the Bible about God's people living in Egypt making bricks. And that sounds a lot like your story to me.
Yeah.
And God raised up a man, Moses, to redeem them and take them out of bondage. And so I want you to know that God has raised up a man, and I am here today to tell you that I will buy every one of you out of bondage if it takes the rest of my life.
Wow.
And then I realized what I said. Like, oh my God, what did I just commit to? So the weirdest thing happened. Wasn't anything I was expecting. They all stood up and cheered and smiled.
Yeah.
Because their Redeemer had showed up.
Is that just, that puts tears in my eyes just thinking about that, because God, that's just where the rubber hits the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was real.
So you and I have been on this journey of church stuff, leaving and coming and going and all this stuff. I'm kind of jealous. I have some envy in my heart.
So I'm putting a team together for next year, and you can come if you want.
Oh my God, Kathy and I probably would love. I would love that.
It's going to be epic.
Because I think what I watched and my wife was the one who was just glued to this, and what I was seeing was like, I felt like, and this is, me, this is not lifting Albert up on a pedestal. This is God using Albert, but it was like, it felt like scripture alive instead of what we see today so much in America is,
dog and pony shows.
Yeah, dog and pony shows and people talking the big talk, but not really, and not just you're not doing anything that's getting you a bunch of, Hollywood stars and you know what I
get
mean?
nothing out of this.
No, and
Yeah.
you're just going and you're buying their freedom, and to see the start that gives them. I bet what's really fun was when you met the Buffalo guy, because you already you got him out a while ago, and to say what was his life like now because of that.
Great question. Okay, so the Buffalo guy, we bought him one buffalo. He milked that buffalo to death, and he bought another buffalo, and he milked both buffaloes, and now he has 3 buffalo. He is now one of the instrumental people in the church helping all of the other slaves. He has
the former slaves.
The former, yeah. And helping them transition through the process to their new lives. So he traveled with us quite a bit because he's an entrepreneur and he has his own business now. He has the time to help the church. So in early Christianity, this was very normal that the business people were big helpers in the church. In the book of Acts, we read about Lydia. She was a dyer of purple. Well, so she had a side gig, right? But that allowed her then to bless the church because of that, with time, talent, energy, whatever, right? So
wasn't that guy named Paul a fisherman of some kind?
He was Paul was a tent maker, right?
A tent maker, yeah.
Side gig, that's right. Jesus was a carpenter. Yeah, so
they don't have any professional pastors.
Yeah, isn't that weird? So he's now looking at renting land, growing crops on it to make silage to sell to other buffalo owners for food. So he's becoming Mr. Buffalo Man, right? And he has the ability to now help other people out of the process. He has a home. It'd be like a rented kind of apartment kind of thing. But it has this massive courtyard on it. That was one of the pictures that you saw where the people were on the floor. That was his courtyard. And he has a tent over the top of it to keep it cool for everybody. And they hold services there now.
So what's the biggest thing that changed for you personally after this trip?
Two things. I also got to visit. There was some persecution that happened in August in Pakistan. There were 100 homes that were burnt down, 25 churches. And I got to tour that ground zero and find out what the truth is. So the BBC is putting out reports about what has happened in the government's response. You get to break it here first on Rick Dancer TV. About the truth of what happened. And so the government came in and they said, hey, we're here. We're your friend. We're going to help the Christians. So they sent them all checks, and the checks all bounced. So then they said, hey, we're going to put roofs on your houses because you need roofs on your houses. So they put roofs on the houses, but all of the houses were burned out. And when the mob attacked, so they stole everything they wanted in the house, destroyed everything else, lit it on fire, and then threw an accelerant like jet fuel or something on it. It burned so hot that all of the steel beams in the roofs were warped. Okay. And all the walls are just soot. So it's so toxic, you can't go in the house and breathe. But they put a roof on it for you.
Yeah. That sounds like something would happen right now in America, doesn't
right?
it?
Yeah, we're here to help.
So they were burned out because of their beliefs in Christ.
Just because they're a Christian, yeah. So you go down the block, Muslim house, Christian house burned, Christian house burned, Christian house burned, Muslim house not burned.
So what's the connection between persecution and seeing God?
Yeah, so persecution causes us to become stronger, right? So this was the lesson. This was one of the 2 lessons that I learned. And I'm sure that there will be more lessons as I process more here, and get through this. I'm still slightly jet lagged a week later. But lesson number 1 is all of these people in these houses would come up to me and they would hug me and shake hands and want me to look at their house and what they've went through. And I realized the importance of standing with people. So they didn't expect me to give them $10,000 and fix their house. That's not what they wanted. They wanted their story told. They wanted the truth told. And they realized that I got on a plane, flew halfway across the world to see what had happened to them. And that was comforting to them. Just
because you cared.
Because I cared.
So what is that? You have to come back, Albert, from something like that. I guess you don't have to, but I would guess, knowing you, that you would. What are the lessons for us in America? Right now, I have to tell you, it seems pretty trite what's going on in America when you look at what's going on in Pakistan.
Sure.
And many other places in the world so do we need struggle in order to see God, do you think?
Well, I sure think it clarifies your priorities and maybe clarifies your vision of him and what he's capable of. So let's take it from a national level to a personal level, right? So your friend is sick. Okay. When you come over to their house and sit with them and talk with them, or maybe it's a shut-in neighbor or something like that, they're not expecting you. I mean, it'd be nice if you laid hands on them and their cancer went away. And I'm all in for that. One of these times, maybe it'll happen when I do that. I'm all in. Okay. But they're not probably expecting that to happen. But they sure do appreciate the fact that you came over and sat with them, talked with them.
Yeah.
Just stand with people. Just engage people in relationships that are deeply meaningful to them. And that's how we begin to feel this love of God.
So they don't have to agree with you.
I'm sure most of these people didn't agree. I mean, you and I have had a lot of talks about our theology and stuff like that. I'm sure most of the people I dealt with over there have no clue about my theology, but they don't care about theology. No. And neither did Yeshua. Okay. What Jesus cared about was actions.
Because as you and I have talked many, many times before, and Albert studies Hebrew, and that's how he sees God, since God was the head of the Hebrew people. kind of makes sense that he might do Hebrew kind of things, but who am I? But you and I have said this, and I use it a lot when I talk to people, is like, love is an action word. If you can't just say I love you unless you love people, right? And faith, despite has nothing to do with works, but if you don't do anything, you can't have faith. You won't have faith unless you do something. It's an action word. I think community is an action word.
You bet.
Marriage is an action word. Friendship, all these things that we don't pay attention to. And I love what you're saying is like, if you just take time to pay attention to people, and you can't save everybody, but they're not asking to be saved. They're just asking for you to give them the time of day, or to sit with them, or be interested in their story for a little bit.
And over time, the doors that will open for you will be amazing.
So what's next?
So I have to tell you the second thing that I picked up.
Okay. Yeah. You just keep, you know how I work. You just do what you got to do.
So the Pakistani culture is an absolutely amazing culture. Okay. I absolutely love it. I am now part Pakistani. I have a little Pakistani piece of heart now. They are so absolutely hospitable. The hospitality that they showed me was like Abraham and Sarah. Okay.
Huh.
I mean, they were willing to kill the fatted cow for me, right? I didn't ask for the fatted cow to be killed, but they went way out of their way. And I came back going, I really got to raise my game here. So as you know, I have went through hip surgery over the last couple years and rehab that. And that was part of me having to put this trip off for so long to get over there, was all of the hip surgeries and stuff. So, one of the things after you've had total hip replacements that you're not supposed to do is bring your hip to 90 degrees.
Okay.
Or beyond, like bring your knee to your shoulder and things like this. So everywhere in Africa, at the orphanage, and over in Asia, they don't use commodes like we do. They use squatty potties, holes in the ground, right? And that was actually one of my big fears going into this whole thing. Is that
when you heard they have squatty potties? Did you say, "Oh shit"?
Yeah, exactly. So I walked into the pastor's house. Now, he had changed houses just for me.
What do you mean?
He got rid of the apartment he was living in and bought a new apartment just for me because it had air conditioning. And that would make me more comfortable.
Wow.
So that's kind of raising your, like, have you ever had the thought, I think I'll move to make this other person feel comfortable when they come over?
Right. Hey, we need more room for grandma and grandpa to stay over. So we're going to go sell our house and go buy something bigger so they can come in here.
Right. So,
but that's just normal for their culture.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, I can't believe you did that. Right. So then I walked to the bathroom. First thing I want to do, I want to look in the bathroom. And I finally understood the shortest verse in the Bible. He wept, because I opened up the door and they had bought a commode for me.
No.
And I'm like, okay, so do I spend a lot of time thinking about people's bathroom needs when they come over to my house? No. And I'm not saying that that's the gospel. I'm just saying that everything they did, every meal that they made and served, was this massive effort of hospitality. And I came back and I'm like, I need to up my game with my friends, and really work on this whole loving my neighbor thing. And you know, I'm big on loving my neighbor.
Right.
But yeah, I was like, wow, time to up the game.
So what do you tell your son? What will you tell your son about this experience and your two daughters? If you were to be able to sit down and talk with them, what would the thing that you'd say, what did your father see, you, the father, see in this, in humanness?
I hope that, so in the Hebraic worldview, it's about function, not form, right? So, like when we talk about the image of God, it doesn't mean that I have to grow a beard like Jesus. I'm not trying to look like Jesus, right?
Oh shoot! Well, I'm working it. I'm doing the Moses. I'm going for Moses and let my people go.
Yeah, right. So I can be my God is loving. I can be loving. I can function like him. My God is compassionate. I can be compassionate. My God is a judge. I can make appropriate judgments when necessary. My God is a redeemer. He redeems things. And so I became a redeemer also in this. And my God sets people free. And when they're free indeed. And I hope that my kids would see that their father, just like their father in heaven, learned how to set people free in this.
Do you feel like, and I know you'll take this the right way, after all the years that you played church, that now you really are the church?
So so I have a friend, and the friend is pagan. Okay. And like not neo-pagan, like, oh, I'm a pagan, like literally raised pagan, solstices, equinoxes, the whole thing. Okay?
Uh-huh.
And I was talking with her and I showed this video to her. And her response was, I want to be on your team next year. Wasn't a Christian saying this.
Right.
See, this is going beyond everything. This cuts through all of the crap.
Right.
I'm not, and she goes, well, you know, I'm not a church person or anything like that. I go, no, you are a church person, because what you just watched, that's church.
Yeah.
She goes, well, then I guess I like this church. Mind blown.
That's one of these.
Yeah. Mic drop.
So if the church in America started doing stuff like this, I mean, hard, where you're really like affecting, but we always put, I don't know, we always seem to put like I don't know, we have to have credit, or it's our church put on the back to school week and we did, you know what I mean? It's, I think, I don't think we understand, because you could do something pretty profound in this country if you got out of your ivory palace and your box and realize that, Albert, you know, I mean, I'm getting kind of choked up. There are people that are so poor here, you know? And I interviewed a little girl the other day who's 17. And when she was 6 years old, her mom's boyfriend sold her to a friend for sex. And he turned around and sold her to another friend for sex and another friend for sex. And this went on till she was 17 years old. So she was sex trafficked. I mean, she's enslaved by our culture and what we're doing. And we could buy these people freedom, but we always have conditions. You know what I mean? I think we always have these conditions where, well, you have to live up to this standard or do this thing, rather than just, I mean, I'm just speaking off the top of my head, but there's so much pain in people, and we get we act like, if you will just stop doing this behavior, then we can make things better, rather than just, like you said, sitting down with people and loving them with no expectations except to be their friend and care about them.
So the story I told about, I drove on the brickyard and I took a picture of the rice field.
Yeah.
Here's the significance. All the people working in that rice field, the young kids, the girls, they have to go. They don't have bathrooms because the slave owner won't buy them for them. They won't buy outhouses, And so they use that rice field as their bathroom. They go out into the rice field to go to the bathroom. So then the slave owner goes out into the rice field and rapes the little girls. It's just, it's evil. So now someone comes along and says, you'll never have to go to the rice field again.
Yeah.
How much did that change that person's life?
Yeah.
No different than people. I mean, there's human trafficking going on like crazy right now in the United States.
Right.
But you'll get, one guy who takes a stand and causes amazing things to happen. Be that guy.
So what did you learn about evil?
It's present, it's real, and in a lot of cases, it seems to be winning. And if we don't stand up and take a stand, evil wins. But it's very much alive.
And in America, we want to whitewash evil and make it. It's just people have things. You know what I mean. We don't call it what it is. And what happens when you don't call evil evil?
So the role of a priest in Scripture, one of the roles of a priest is to name things. Okay, so Adam and Eve are priest and priestess in the garden. Okay.
Right.
God brings the animals to Adam and he says, that's a giraffe, and that's a rhinoceros, and that's a dog. Okay. He names things. So the same thing in temple times, like if someone had leprosy or something like that, they would go to the temple. The priest looks at it and sees what's going on, and he says, that's leprosy. He calls it what it is. That's the role of a priest. But we've learned to redefine everything in America so that we don't have that shame thing happen.
Oh. And that's what you see going on in the news every day, is evil being masked as something else.
As light.
Right. Rather than called out and said, no, when you lie to us as the American people, that is a lie. Have you noticed that? I know I'm getting off topic, but it all ties in. You can't call someone a liar anymore.
Sure.
I got Facebook axed like something I wrote because I called someone a liar. And it's like, you can't even use those terms to speak the truth. You just, it's a falsehood or something. And so if you don't call something out, like this evil slave owner, if you don't call him evil, he or she evil, what does that do to the power of evil?
Yeah, it strengthens it, right? It allows it to continue on.
So if people are out there and, I always say this to my audience, it's like, okay, I'm really glad you watched this and you thought, wow, what Albert's doing is really cool. That's neat, and then, dinner's ready. Let's go. If it makes you sad and you do nothing about it, you've taken no action. So what can people do? I mean, are you starting some kind of a thing where people can get involved? I mean, I know it's not a ministry.
Well,
it's just life. It's called living the life that God gives you.
So I started this out. I would just people that would want to help, or we kind of joke about this. I'm like, my elevator speech is, I beat children, I sell drugs, and I human traffic. Which one do you want to talk about? Right. So then they'll ask about human trafficking. And I say, well, I buy these slaves out. And if you need a slave, just get a hold of me and I can help you out. Right.
But be careful, because I'm sure I don't want to get
some will complain. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the end result is I started a church. Okay. So I always did everything out of my bank, my checking account. Just people give me money and I'd send it off. People give me money. Then everybody said, well, we want a tax deduction. So I opened up a 508 church. So most people today have 501c3 churches. Okay. That's a nonprofit and they can give you a tax receipt. But when you do that, you lose your freedom of speech because the government can now tell you what you can say or not. Right. So a 508, you keep your free speech, because I'm a big First Amendment guy. And so I can say whatever I want and the government can't stop me, and you still get your tax receipt. So if you want to put like my email, in your comments or something like that, they can get a hold of me through the email, and I can introduce them to the process, tell them what it costs and how they can help and make a donation and stuff like that.
Is there a name?
It's called Ahava Fellowship, Love Fellowship. Ahava is love in Hebrew.
Huh. So
can you ever imagine I opened a church, Rick?
I almost recoiled a little. So are you happier than you've ever been?
I haven't told you a couple of these things, but the last few months, I took a couple hard hits emotionally and stuff with things in my life. But I can honestly tell you, even with that, I have never been happier because my significance level has the things that I'm doing in life are more significant than I've ever done.
So for people out there who are going through really hard stuff, like, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of people, and I think it's really easy to get kind of down about the world that we live in and stuff. It's like if you put your attention on others, it greatly reduces your stress, the things going on, and you stop caring so much about the little things happening to you, and you start seeing the big things happening to the people around you by the little things that you do. That could almost be profound.
Gratitude has always been a really important aspect of my life. And scripture tells us that it's better to give than to receive. And often we spend a lot of time focusing on what I'm not getting. And if you want to change the equation, focus on giving. Focus on giving everything away. And God will be a debtor to no man. He will bless you beyond your wildest dreams. And that's not a prosperity doctrine thing or anything like that. I'm just telling you, you focus on the giving and God will take care of the rest for you.
Because 10 years ago, you had nothing. You lost everything.
I had zero.
You lost it.
Best experience of my life.
So you lost everything, and now you're giving it all away.
Yeah. What's
the difference?
It's absolutely dramatic. It's just, I have so much fun now. I really do. I mean, you imagine I get up and I'm like, my thoughts today, like, well, I had to go down to Western Union and send off some money to buy out 3 more slaves today. Oh, darn. I have to go to Western Union again. My life is so hard. Yeah, it's just awesome. And then, I get these messages from my orphanage. The cow can't sleep. Well, what are you, the cow whisperer? How do you know the cow can't sleep? Tell me the story. What's going on? Oh, well, the gutters are broke and the water's all pouring down on the cow's, building. Oh, okay. We need to get the gutters fixed. Let's figure out how to fix gutters in Uganda now. And then I get to go, teach my karate classes and stuff like that, which I love. And it's just a great life.
So it's not perfect.
Oh, no, that's okay. The imperfect part is minuscule compared to what I just went through.
So all those years ago when you left, and now you're kind of creating, because you and I have these kind of
sevenfold.
Yeah, you left what you knew wasn't working, and now God has created what works, and you get to partner with Him on something that's real, and that really is the church, and that's like a dream come true. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Or that.
We have a congregation of about 50 people in a home church kind of thing, right? And we are doing things here locally around the world that none of us ever thought possible. And it is just the time of my life.
And, you hang around other people that do the same thing.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, or I could just, go watch another episode of Stargate 1 or something and really add some meaning to my life.
So what's one last thing you want to say? I know you too well.
Yeah, go love your neighbor. Just go love your neighbor. Start with that. And if you got an extra few bucks in the bank account, send me an email. I'll help you use it.
Well, truly set people free.
Truly.
Albert Roy, thank you so much. I'm really proud to know you. This is kind of fun.
Thank you.
But keep me in mind. I would really, it's interesting. There's stories we need to talk on the phone about. It's not for public audience, but I think that's really, really cool. And I love what you're doing.
Cool.
All right. Take care of yourself, my man.
Take care, my friends.
Okay. So there you go. That's where rubber hits the road. And, for people that don't know Jesus, That's Jesus. I mean, that's what he does. I'm not saying Albert's Jesus. I'm just saying that's how Jesus works. He doesn't need the current administration. He doesn't need the next administration. He doesn't need any of that stuff to do what he wants to do and to go love people. But what he allows, I think, is for us to participate. But I mean, I think so many people don't understand that God is pro-choice. He's very much about you choose. He doesn't force you into anything. God doesn't force people. But in the bad way, then you have to do what Albert was saying. Faith is an action word. So you have to do something. And it doesn't mean you have to go to church. I'm not saying that's not doing something. I mean, doing something active. Go sit with Lily, your neighbor, because she's lonely. Years ago, I spoke at this thing and I said, I have this free lunch club idea. It goes like this. If you don't like people who are gay, go have lunch with a gay person. If you don't like lesbians, have lunch with a lesbian. If you don't like trans people, have lunch with a trans. If you don't like Jews, have a lunch with a Jew. If you don't like Germans, have lunch with a German. If you don't like Christians, have lunch with the Christians. If you don't like Democrats, have lunch with a Democrat. If you don't like Republicans, take a Republican to lunch. And then you pay for it. You pay the bill. There's no government subsidies. There's no government programs to pay for it. And then you come back and you figure out and tell me what you learned. And that's the free lunch program. So if you're Albert Roy, you just happen to put that thing on steroids and you start releasing people from prison. Not literal prison. Well, it is really prison. So you want to change America? What I heard today, I'm just going to repeat what I heard. I'm not being Pastor Rick, but get out of debt. And my wife and I are thinking might be time to sell and scale down and travel around the country and go do something really crazy. That's our new dream. And I think there's a lot of hurting people in America right now that could just use somebody showing up and telling their story. And you know what? I'm really good at that. I've been trained. So what the hell? Why am I doing this? I could be out there doing that. You never know. Thank you, sponsors, for doing this, letting us do what we do. Thank you for watching. Share it on your page. Let other people see it. When I post this, I will put Albert's phone number. No, I won't put your phone number. I'll put his email in there. So if you want to get more involved, you can get in contact with him. I could go on and on, but if I want to put this on Instagram without having to cut it back, and that takes a bunch of time, it has to be under 1 hour. And I'm at 58 minutes and 25 seconds. All right. Have a good evening. Good night. God, if that didn't affect you, I have nothing for you.